Thank you for joining us. We are here in Atlanta, Georgia to cover the Jewish National Fund National Conference, and among the dignitaries attending is Israel's highly respected acting Consul General in New York City, Mr. Ido Aharoni. One of the essential initiatives, especially at this time in history, is to promote a true image of the State of Israel and its great achievements, of course. We'll discuss all of this with Mr. Aharoni and later with Ezra Rabins, the mayor of the Central Arabah Regional Council in Israel's Negev Desert. But first, we have these messages. With us now is Acting Consul General of Israel to New York, Ido Aharoni. It's a real pleasure to have you on the Shalom Show, sir.
Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you. How do you see the challenges facing Israeli Hasbara, the Israeli informational endeavor, reaching out worldwide at this time in history?
Well, first of all, there's always a challenge for every country to convey its message, to communicate its assets, its advantages, its personality to the world. Israel, on the one hand, enjoys a unique advantage in the sense that we're already on the radar in most countries, in most cultures, and most media outlets. But there's, on the other hand, a problem because most of the information that exists out there about Israel relates to the unhappy geopolitical circumstances of the region. And this is not something that is conducive to Israeli economy. It's not conducive to the exposure of Israeli culture or Israeli tourism. It's not even conducive to the attempts, to the efforts to raise and garner more political support for Israel. So if you ask me, what's the number one challenge that we're facing now as a nation? This challenge is the ability to build relationships with audiences worldwide that go beyond the existing crisis that is being managed. It's all about the ability of building relationships with people, not just advocating a message, not just communicating a message.
Do you believe that mass media in general is deliberately misrepresenting Israel?
I believe that mass media in general has a tendency to send out a very condensed message as a result, because of many reasons. The attention span is becoming shorter and shorter on the part of the media consumer. The technology allows that. So the shorter the message is, the shorter the interaction is, the more difficult it becomes for countries, institutions, and sometimes even individuals to tell their story. And it makes it very difficult for us to tell our story because our story is heavily relying on historical facts, and without the historical context, it's very difficult to understand our side of the story. So we're in a disadvantage. And I don't think that the media out there is maliciously anti-Israel. I do think that you will find, more often than not, journalists that are not doing the necessary groundwork, journalists that are not investing enough time in researching the story, in understanding the complexity of the story, and coupled with the natural tendency to search for easy solutions, what you get is a misperception that it's black or white, that it's a zero-sum game. And my message is to people, friends, the story is not black and white. It's not a zero-sum game. It's a very complicated situation.
In an increasingly anti-Semitic, or as they now call it, anti-Zionistic world we live in, how do you feel we can promote a better image of Israel and its contribution to human society in general?
Well, the key is to get the Israelis feel good about their country first. Then you'd like to get the people that care about Israel to feel good about Israel. The people that are supposed to convey the story of Israel have to be, in the first place, what we call Israel's well-wishers, Israel's stakeholders or shareholders. And you find them in Israel, you find them in Jewish communities worldwide, you also find them in some Christian communities, especially in America, but not only in America. There are many Christians that care deeply about Israel that live in Europe and other places. So that's the first thing you want to do. You want to make sure that the people that are already on your side, that care about you, that they are willing and able to celebrate Israel as a success story, to celebrate Israel as a place of achievement, as a place of positive contribution to the world. When people know nothing about Israel, it's very difficult for them to care about Israel. This is what we need to change. Sometimes we have a tendency to put all the critics in the same basket, but we need to make a distinction between the people whose criticism is not legitimate, those delegitimizers, for example. We need to isolate them, but at the same time, we need to be able to engage the people who may be very critical of Israel, but their criticism is legitimate. Israel is not afraid of criticism. We believe we have the best answers, but we need to equip the younger generation, especially the younger generation, with the right arguments, with the right tools, with the right answers to all those questions. That's what needs to be done.
Sir, before we conclude, how do you see the future?
Well, I think the future is great for Israel. I'm very optimistic. This week we marked the 37th commemoration to the opening of the outbreak of the Yom Kippur War, October 6th, 1973. Second only to the War of Independence in terms of the military challenge that it posed to Israel. It's time to remind our viewers that in 1973, 3.5 million Israelis produced a GDP that was 50% of the combined GDP of all of our neighbors. And today, there are 7.5 million Israelis that produce a GDP that is 3 times the size of the GDP of all of our neighbors combined.
Well, that says it all.
That says it all, and I think that when you look at the performance of Israeli economy, when you look at the performance of Israeli culture, when you look at the performance of the Israeli people, the strength, the resilience, the perseverance, the determination, it's a source for great optimism for all of us. Israel will continue to thrive, Israel will continue to grow, and I think that we have to have the self-confidence and believe in Israel's ability.
Sir, this has been a real pleasure and a privilege. Thank you for being with us on the show.
Thank you, my friend.
I'll be right back.